start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We will start our meeting with the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting June 10th. Everyone's had a chance to take a look at them. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of the June 10th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting June 10th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business are the monthly transactions. The general fund vouchers 81,475 through 81,547, and wire transfers 2024-0551 through 2024-0596. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the general fund vouchers and wire transfers as read.
All second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the general fund vouchers as read. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is our public comment section. Does anyone want to share with us in our vast audience tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item of business, which is our board business. The first item of business is the gallery walk to review balance scorecards for the strategic plan.
Okay, so if you recall, in February we did a gallery walk and reviewed the first and fourth pillar, which was students and operations back in February, and so we've been continuing to work, admin team, throughout the spring semester on the staff and families and community pillar, and so we'd like to just share with you the completed scorecard, and we want to do it in the library again in that gallery walk format, just because it allows everyone to kind of a little more informal. We can sit down around the tables, gather around, look at things, and just have a little bit more of a kind of open discussion. So I don't know if anyone wants to add anything before we. Otherwise, we'll pause here and we'll head across to the library.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
We're back.
Then the next item of business is our approval of resignations.
Okay, get myself back here. Okay, approval So the first one we have is Drew Ludke, our K-12 art teacher. He informed that he took a job in another school district in Minnesota. And so we posted that job immediately. It was after the last board meeting, so we posted it right away. And I've got good news to share on that in the next item. And then we also had Natasha Rosbach, a third grade teacher, who also took a kindergarten position teaching in another district as well. So let us know that they both thanked the district for the time here and just had other opportunities that they wanted to pursue.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resignations.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the resignations. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business are the hires.
Okay, so we had a resignation of night custodian last month, so we have a person to recommend and hire for that. So that's Corey Scott. Corey currently works in our Junior Warriors program, and so he's not mentioned as a resignation, but we actually have an opening there now because he applied for and would like to accept him as the night custodian at the high school building. So Corey, and then the other one is our art position. So very pleased to let people know we have Molly Skalecki. She is a new grad from UW Stout, and interviewed her recently, and she accepted the job and came in and signed her contract. So yeah, and we've done interviews for our third grade opening. We just don't quite have a hire yet.
All right, then I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the hires.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the hires. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is the discussion of our athletic conference affiliation.
Okay. So I did share this out via email with the board when it happened, but been a long process going back to December with the first discussions at the conference level, and then here since February, March basically. But yeah, the WIAA did formally vote. The Board of Control voted June 19th to formally approve the fast track application process for Clear Lake to move from the Lakeland Conference to the Dunston St. Croix Conference. And again, that won't happen until 2025-26 school year. But that is official now. So.
Okay. Then the next item of business is the approval of our 24-25 athletic code update.
Okay, so for this, we'll turn it over to Mr. Melberg to kind of give an overview. You've got the document in there to open up, and he's going to review some of the changes.
Click on the document, and we'll just scroll through, and almost everything in there is highlighted in yellow, that anything that changed. And I can talk through those changes as we go, and please stop me if you have questions. So if you scroll down in the document, the first yellow highlighting you'll see is the revision committee that met last week to look over these proposed changes and approve the proposed changes for final approval by the board. Scrolling down, the first thing that we see on page 4, this is just it's eligibility for athletics, and this was a change with the state legislature a few years ago, where homeschool kids who reside within the school district of Clear Lake can participate in athletics. We just needed to update the language on who can participate. So that's why that language is added there. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see part F. In this area, we want to shore up the language on when the code is signed and what that means. And basically, in a nutshell, if you're in grades 7 through 12 or in 6th grade when we have 6th graders participating in things like wrestling, you are under the athletic code. It doesn't matter what time of year, whether you're in season or out of season. It doesn't matter if it's the middle of summer, you are under the athletic code. The signature of the code is simply a reminder that you're under the athletic code. Not signing it or signing it late does not mean that you do not have to abide by the athletic code. If you're playing athletics or sports for Clear Lake, you are under the code, no matter when that signature took place. So we took out a little bit of language and then just wrote the co-curricular activities code applies to all students throughout their 7-12 school years, 6th grade included when applicable. Signing the code each year serves as an annual acknowledgement and reminder of the code's requirements. This code must be signed by both parents by students and their parents, indicating their understanding and acceptance of the activity code. A signed copy will be maintained on file in the high school office. Students participating in Clear Lake athletics and/or clubs are held responsible by this activity code, no matter when the code was signed. The student athletes are always governed by this code 12 months a year, and whether in or out of season. Questions there? Okay.
I have a question back on the homeschool student portion. Yeah. So we didn't have anything prior to this about the homeschool students at all, correct?
So it just needed, that language just needed to be updated, and I think so. The WIA code, lays it out that they had to make an adjustment when the state legislature passed that those kids are eligible to play sports here, and we just needed to update that language.
Do we have, or has there been any talk about the cost of being in sports if you're not a student of Clear Lake?
There has not been.
Okay.
Would you like there to be?
I think there ought to be, okay. Maybe.
Okay. We can have that conversation and come back to the board with something. Scrolling down, part B is our clubs, and so it's the repeated language there. Just added it in so that eligibility is there. I did catch this morning that it still says at the bottom of that one student athletes, and I will correct that just to say student club members instead of athletes in Group B. Sorry, make a note here.
Can I mention something else?
Yep.
Since we're getting into academics next, I know that there was there any thought? It doesn't. I just want to make sure it was thought about. But I know like the wrestlers have had issues getting Fs just before. This, from what I understand, the timing between that and when the your tournaments come up is they don't have a way to,
Yep.
to
I know exactly what you're saying.
fix it,
So
you know.
the timing of when our third quarter ends and when grades are due, typically we'll keep a wrestler who failed a class out through the regional round, which then keeps them out of the playoffs.
Is that second
Second
quarter?
quarter? 'Cause that-
Or, I'm sorry.
Second quarter.
Second quarter.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah,
'cause
second
third
quarter, end
would
of
be
January.
spring.
Second quarter would be
Mhm.
the end of the
January.
second quarter,
Yep.
keeps them out of the,
The easiest solution to that problem is that they don't fail a class. And actually, they've done a fantastic job. We saw a huge improvement 2 years ago and even better this last year. And so we're not dealing with that much at all right now. I don't know how you would adjust that. You know, we're not going to make our academic calendar based off of an athletic calendar.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
How much of the kids' grades improvements is due to the coach's tutoring?
Quite a bit.
All right, so we should pat him on the back for that.
Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. It's been a big point of emphasis.
Yeah. We didn't have that prior to, I don't believe. Not like we do now.
Right. Scrolling, there's nothing highlighted on page 6, but I want to bring something to your attention because I may come back and ask you to amend this in the months to come. So towards the bottom, it talks about dual participation, and it says athletes cannot participate in more than one sport at the same time in the same season. So you can't go out for track and baseball in the spring. In the last couple of months, we've had a couple of student athletes and a couple of community members who have asked for us to relook at this. So what we did is, with the committee last week, is I asked the committee if they thought we should look further into this. We laid out some of the pros and cons of doing that. The committee agreed that it was worth looking into. So what we decided on is that we would create another committee to look at dual participation. We've got samples of other schools that are doing it, and then make 2 decisions. One, whether we think it's a good idea for Clear Lake or not, and if the committee thinks it's a good idea, and then to create some proposed language to bring to you guys to attempt to put something in place, probably some sort of pilot for next spring if we do it, that would allow kids to potentially participate in dual sports. And there's all kinds of questions with that, and I'm happy to entertain those now, or we can wait until after that committee meets as well.
My thought goes to, is there a priority, or should there be a priority sport? And then how is that handled by both the number 1 priority and the second priority?
Correct.
So everybody's comfortable and knows what the expectations are.
Most of the language that we've seen from other schools is that exact thing, is they have to pick a priority, and then there has to be a meeting amongst the athletic director and the coaches and the family to lay out some expectations.
All right, so that's all templated.
It's great in that we could increase our numbers potentially in some sports. There's some hesitation in how smoothly that would go when you have an athlete shared between 2 different sports. Another piece that I've seen in there that I would want is a certain GPA.
yes, I was gonna ask.
Because you're going to student athlete wear themselves pretty thin. We want to make sure that they're taking care of business in the classroom.
You also got to think about ETS too. How is that going to affect ETS?
Yeah, that would all be part of that conversation. And I'm interested to see what this language potentially will look like, and then I can bring that to you if that's the route we decide to go.
Spring sports only, or?
The committee thought that we should start there as a pilot. If we go that route, start there as a pilot and then revisit.
So the thought is to bring the spring coaches together, have a conversation, because it's really been specifically directed at spring sports. So how could this work? What would it look like? How do you balance the ETS, the academics, the practice schedules, the competition schedules? Like, if you walk it forward, does it even work? And are you setting kids up to fail? Because you at least need to explore it.
Agreed. I have some reservations about it, but I'm willing to look and explore it.
Well, and if it at a certain point doesn't work, then, that we can revoke the license to do so, right?
Yep.
It tends to be the pattern that you kind of see happen every so often. There's an interest in doing it, and you try it for a while, and then people kind of start to rediscover some of those frustrations, and then after a while, maybe it goes away or not. But yeah, it's worth a try, I think was the sentiment.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we're a small district. We could try to be flexible and.
Right. All right, scrolling down, I am now on the bottom of page 8. This came up from another district. I'll be honest with you, this is something that we would do anyway, but I did think, and the committee thought as well, it was good to just have the language in there. And so it reads, a student who is expelled from school and receives an athletic code violation will begin serving their code violation after the conclusion of their out-of-school expulsion. Now,
It's page 9, actually.
Page
Everybody's
9.
looking for it.
well, page
It's on 8 for me.
Oh, if you're looking at your
Oh,
screen reader, it's
smaller
page
screen.
9. If you're looking at the
Oh.
number on the page, it's page 8.
So somewhere between page 8 and 9.
Letter G.
In order for a student athlete to serve a athletic code violation, they have to be in good standing with the team that they're serving. So if they have an athletic code violation during the basketball season, they can't just go out for basketball long enough to get their code violation taken care of and then quit. They have to finish this. They have to be there. They have to show up to practice. They have to finish the season in good standing. So a student that is expelled couldn't be at those practices to serve it anyway, but it's nice to have it explicitly in there saying, nope, you can't serve this until you return. Any questions there? And now on consequences of code violation, group A, there's a big highlighted part in the middle. This is nothing new. This is actually later in the activity code, but I thought it would be nice to have it there as well as a reminder. For a second offense, a student is out for an entire season. Well, if that second offense takes place in the middle of a season, we figure out the percentage of that season they're going to miss, and then whatever the next season is, they have to complete the 100% of a season. So nothing new there. Just below that, nothing new here either as far as conduct on becoming a student athlete. We just added a title to that table, and then also made a reference. Page 7, section G gives you a definition of what conduct on becoming is. So it's actually just kind of a nice reminder for anyone looking at the code on where to go to see that definition, so you don't have to go searching for it. And then it'll be the same thing for conduct on becoming of a student club member, added a title and a reference to where they can see that definition. Scrolling down, I'm on page 11 or possibly 12 if I'm doing my math right. The bottom there, it says a statute of limitations does not exist as students are expected to abide by the code at all times. Basically, there was a question on whether the code actually has statute of limitations or not. We needed to have language in there to determine whether it did or not, and as a committee for a number of reasons determined that it does not. Our expectation is that students in grades 7 through 12 abide by the code every year.
So does that conversation lend to the conversations that we've had in the past pertaining to photographs?
Yeah.
And the fact that people can kind of hold on to photographs and blackmail and that type of thing?
Yep.
Was that conversation ever concluded? Do we ever?
That's concluded in this statement here. And the conversation is, yes, we do not want that to ever happen. But I'll go back to kind of the easiest solution to that is, as a student athlete, if you don't violate the code, you never have to worry about that. And then the other side of that is, if we put a statute of limitations in place, I don't know, is it 30 days? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? And then in addition to that, whose job is it to prove when that picture was taken or when that event was? I think the cleanest way to do this is to simply say, if you don't break the code, you don't have to worry about it. Christie, anything as far as committee that
No, you got it. Just the one thing we did point out as a committee though is there kind of is an implied statute of limitations, because remember the code applies to grades 7 through 12. So really you can't technically use things before grade 7. I mean, if you were gonna follow this like a contract of law, you can't hold them accountable for something in 6th grade before the code of conduct really kicked in.
we sure hope we don't have one?
Yeah, that was our conversation. We're like, there's probably not gonna have that situation, but, you know.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna tell you, I don't agree with that. If somebody did something wrong in 7th grade and they're a junior and somebody comes up with a picture and they have to miss basketball, I mean, I don't see any justice in that.
So
It's just as cut and dry to have a statute of limitations as it is to not have a statute of limitations.
what would
in
your
my
statute
opinion.
of limitations be then?
I think a year would be fair,
I'd say a year. I'm in the same boat.
but I'm not part of the committee, I'm just on the board voicing my
Yep.
opinion.
Well, no, you have, I mean, the board has final approval of this.
I don't know how
My-
you
my
guys
cons-
feel about it,
my-
but.
My concern there, Greg, is.
You know what you're signing. You make a mistake, you make a mistake.
My
Don't do it or do it. I mean,
Well, I know, but I mean, how many times have any of us broken the law in the last 7 years?
And you paid the consequences for it, right?
Do we want a bunch of tickets to come in the mail for the last number of times we sped? You know what I mean? And I'm using the extreme of somebody doing something in 7th
get
grade
it.
and being a junior. I mean,
Kids at 7th grade, that's, yeah, I don't know.
where do you draw the line? I don't know where, but I mean, I think that there was something going on with a photograph of somebody doing something wrong that was running for the court this year. And I didn't get the full story and follow it through, but it was another one of them photograph things. Somebody had a photograph from a period of time
Yep.
ago. I don't know if that ever came to you guys or not, but
Well, and I shared some of those experiences. You know, whenever someone reports someone for activity code violation, if it's another student or so, it's always unsavory. It's like there's always an unsavory element to it of what's the motivation or why did they do it, and unfortunately often the conversation turns to that as opposed to what were you doing?
Was it a yes or no violation?
And so, because I know I was part of that conversation too. Just where I come back to too is I don't know what that statute of limitations would be. Because if we say a year, I'd be uncomfortable with if after a year lapsed and if we became aware of certain activities that a student did that were pretty serious violations of criminal law, I would not be comfortable saying, well, it was a year ago. It was 366 days ago. They robbed a liquor store. I guess we're going to let them play. So there's those arguments that go around and around. So I understand I see both sides of it as well. But
Criminally, they could still be charged because there's not a statute of limitations with some
Yeah.
of that. The statute of limitations with criminal offenses is much longer than a year.
yeah. Well, and just
So,
Yeah.
that's where it is hard to decide
or,
which one.
It's one. I could say, hey, if something happened 3 years ago and it was a supposed minor violation, but then we find out, someone maybe moved here, and we find out 3 years ago they committed a very egregious, sexual assault or a violation with a firearm or something like that.
or how about if it was stealing a McDonald's arrow sign and
Right.
getting caught?
Right.
I mean, what if it's not egregious? What if
Right.
it's a minor?
Right.
Yeah.
And so then where do you have that? How do you do that? How do you have that sliding scale of, first, what's egregious and what's major and how long?
So the point of having somebody suspended from playing sports is a punishment to try to get them to not do something again. So when a dog does something wrong, how long before you twap them is it ineffective? So how long, same with a kid, how much time goes by before you twap them and it's not doing really any good? You know, if I did something wrong 3 years ago, to a kid, that's a lifetime ago.
Yep. My
To me,
other-
it's a lifetime ago, I guess.
My other concern is, you know, wherever that arbitrary number is, if it's 6 months, a year, so you said a year, so if we have a group of athletes that are part of a party with alcohol involved, does that mean on day 366, they can post all of those pictures? And put that, now, there's nothing the code can do, because they're beyond it. So I have that concern as well.
Could you make it a little
Where's
easier that it's a
WIA?
junior high distinction in high school? Once you start a high school sport, it's for your whole 4 years. They're a little bit older, they're a little bit more aware of their behaviors, and it's a little more at stake. I mean, you're talking your varsity years, it's a little bit, they're older, they get it. Junior high kids may be questionable on some behaviors, so put it within that age bracket, maybe, I don't know. I just think 16-year-olds have enough that they should be beyond a year. If you're drinking and partying at 16, I think it should hold their whole high school career. I mean, they're old enough to know at that point. Junior high maybe, but there may be that distinction. It carries through your junior high years, and once you start high school, this is important enough that it's going to carry forward for your 4 years of high school.
How often do we ever come across something older than a year anyway?
We haven't.
And the other point that I just thought of is the kids sign it every year. It's a yearly contract that they sign. I know that they're bound to it now with the language that we've got in there, that they're bound to it anyway, but contractually in the real world, if you sign something for a year, it's a year, you know, it's a year.
So keep in mind, so give you a little bit of the history on it. They used to just sign it in 7th grade, and then that was it. And
Just carry
the argument
forward.
against that was now a kid makes a violation as a junior, and it's, well, geez, they haven't signed the code since they were
Right.
in 7th grade. The idea behind this is, in the language that is in there, is this: the signature doesn't have a lot of meaning other than a reminder that you have to abide by this code.
So I think, Greg, also, it's not just signing the code, but when you go to like the parents' meeting, the coaches are telling you about the athletic code. Like I remember coming in for Jocelyn Junior High, Dale talked about the athletic code and it being a privilege. Like, this isn't the only time they've heard this. If they play 3 sports, they're gonna hear it 3 times plus signing it.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So this shouldn't be a shock to them.
I just would like to take the meat off the bone of somebody that's going to hold something over someone's head, potentially right now for 5 years.
Well, 6 years.
Well, I don't dare say it in this. I think we have something else to be a little more scared of than that, and that would be AI.
But yeah, but this has come up
That's-
twice. This has come up twice in the last 2 years. With these pictures.
But some of that speaks to how competitive some of these sports have gotten.
I think I can recall years ago when I was high school principal, we kind of had a similar, couple incidents like that too, and it was unsavory, it was ugly, and it didn't happen again for 5 years. It's always. I can remember before pictures. I remember when my sister was in high school, older than me, and there was incidents like that, and it was always an ugly affair of who turned who in and why and what was their motivation and so on. And I just, that part of it, I feel like that's such a variable that's hard to control.
Well,
That part of
it's
it.
just my opinion.
Yeah.
If you guys did talk about it at the committee, that's what the committee's for, so.
It was
we
kind
gotta-
of this same discussion.
Yeah, same discussion, yeah.
All right, well, I can't hold this up anymore. We gotta get Nettie going.
Scrolling down, we want to look at the appeal procedure too. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom, is like we kind of rewrote it. The appeal procedure is largely the same with a few minor changes. So now I'm on page 16 or 17. Couple of the first one is anytime a parent or student feels that the athletic or activity code is not properly applied, they can appeal the decision of the athletic director and/or principal, and as part of that, they have to provide in writing that they are appealing it. We'd like to add in there that part of that is they can't just say we'd like to appeal it, but they also have to include the specific grounds for the appeal. just a little bit more accountability. Sometimes we get somebody who's upset about it, and they say, well, we're going to appeal it, and we got to put a committee together, and all this has to happen within 5 days, and then we get everything set, and then on day 5, they kind of realize that they don't need that, they're not going to win that appeal, and they back off and say, oh, forget it. Well, we'd like to have a little meat on the bone up front that, hey, if you want to appeal it, that's fine, but you got to provide us what grounds you're appealing it on. Scrolling down, we took out the word charges. So it says student, parent, guardian shall be provided with written information involving the charges. We thought charges was a little aggressive, changed that to code violation. It's not a charge against them, just a violation of the code. So more of just to clean up some language part. We changed this is a bigger change, and that is the makeup of the committee that hears the appeal. We were the only school district between Lakeland and Dunn St. Croix in the middle border that had students on their appeal committee. As being part of that appeal process a couple of different times, having students come into that, uninvolved students come in and present information about another student, just made me very uncomfortable. Similar with the community member, makes it a little uncomfortable. The other thing is it's very difficult for me to know the history in a small town. I don't know what students got in a fight in 3rd grade on the playground, and I don't know all the different family connections as I'm reaching out trying to find people to serve on this committee. To me, I looked at 4 different codes, and the suggestion that I made and the committee agreed, 3 uninvolved Clear Lake School District staff and 2 uninvolved Clear Lake coaches as the committee that would hear that appeal. The next thing is just a cleanup of the language a little bit. So in that appeal process, there's always an administrator who oversees the process, and they used to be called the chairman, the activity board chairman, and then there's also on the activity board a chairman of that board, and that got really confusing on whose duties were whose, so we changed the administrator's name to an unbiased facilitator of the proceedings, just to provide a little more clarity in there. And that's it. Questions, comments, concerns?
Looks good.
Great.
Figure out how to get out of here. I will entertain a motion to approve the the activity code update.
I move to approve the new athletic activity code.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 24-25 activity code. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is the consideration/approval of middle school math curriculum purchase.
All right, I will speak to this. So we found out in the spring, actually, that our current math series for 6th grade was going to expire or no longer be supported. We could have gotten 1 more year out of it just because the teacher was going to be able to do that, but we thought, why not start the process? We knew it was going to be a little bit quicker than our whole building ELA process. So we followed that same kind of pattern, just on a smaller scale. It was only 3 teachers that it was affecting. Currently, our 5th grade uses what our K4 uses, but we thought we're going to kind of clump into more of a middle school model. So 5, 6, 7, and 8, we reached out to other districts, a CISA consultant, checked ed reports, which is this online, they do all the work for you and let you know if it, on their criteria, if it meets the expectations of a quality resource. Requested some resources, narrowed it down, met with 2 reps via Zoom, and the 3 teachers came to the conclusion of the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt into math. It is a series that does a K4 program also, so after a few years, if this is a really great resource, we currently use math expressions in the elementary, maybe this would be something that could be a move towards. So the proposal is attached, and it is for a 5-year
cost covers the 5 years, and we're using ESSER funds for this, correct?
We are using ESSER funds for this purchase.
All right, then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the middle school math curriculum purchase.
Second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the middle school math curriculum. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the 23-24 year-end district budget update.
Okay. Speaking of ESSER funds, I believe that math purchase was like the final thing that got us down to zero on our ESSER funds. So in coming months, I'm looking forward to, I'll give a report on kind of how all those funds were used over the years and all the good things that we did with them. So this is just a more informal, I know at the last meeting, we said as the budget year winded down and we got into mid to late June, the board offered me the latitude to choose whether to purchase a school bus at the end of the year. And so we said we would kind of see how that shook out. So as we got down to the last week in June, Eve and Lori Karnick, who's still coming in consulting here once a week, they dug into that. Oh, sorry, I just closed the wrong document. But there's still a lot of receivables, still a lot of things that are getting processed that go back to our June, our 23-24 budget. But did a very good close estimate, and basically, in a nutshell, using a pretty conservative. It's a rough estimate, but also a conservative estimate, estimating that there'd be roughly a surplus of close to about $300,000. And again, that's a conservative estimate. So that, on the worksheet that I included in there, just a rough worksheet was, included. We did go ahead and make the bus purchase, which I think, it's an investment for the future. And then that still allowed us to have, over $130,000, $136,000. Again, rough estimate at this point. It'll be a lot cleaner in a month to put into Fund 46, and also gives us just shy of $50,000 to build up our fund balance a little bit if we want to. Now, I haven't gone and done the workings on how much we want to put in our fund balance, because we don't want to put too much in there as a low spending district. We want to spend down our money. If we don't spend it down, we can get penalized, and there's a kind of a tipping point with that. So again, my purpose for doing this was just to say, all right, if we purchase this bus, are we still going to be able to build up our fund balance a little bit if we want, and are we still going to be able to make a sizable input into Fund 46? And the answer was yes, so did it. So again, these numbers are not firm. They're rough estimates, but they're conservative estimates too, based on what's still hanging out there. So that's just no action or anything like that, but just an update from the last conversation we had.
Okay, next item of business then is the consideration / approval of a fire alarm system update at the junior senior high school building.
Okay, so it's been a struggle to get multiple bids for this, but our fire alarm system at the high school is vintage to 1997 when the building was built. It still works fine. However, the panel is old and it doesn't allow us some functionality that you want nowadays, like as far as how you link with the fire department and making those automatic calls when it goes off. The horns and the buzzers and the lights and things like that, it's getting harder and harder to find parts to replace them when they go out. We've had some sensors go bad, and Bo Osmond will find things on eBay, to get parts, and he said it's getting harder and harder to find parts, and so this has been something we've been looking at for a couple of years. It was in the facility study from KA as well, from Cross Anderson. So anyway, it's been a process all year long, and Bo took the lead on this one particularly of getting bids to come in, and so we've got proposals from LVC, Summit, and Hunt, and you'll see that one of them is a clear outlier as far as being way too low, which means something's missing there, and it's not realistic. And then I think you got two that are right in the ballpark with each other, within $1,000 of each other. So. Based on conversations that Bo and I have had with each other and with the vendors, our recommendation is to go with Hunt Electric to remodel it for $193,000. So We currently have $460,000 in our Fund 46 account, which we can use for facilities for this. So I would say this is a high priority item.
This is for both schools?
This is just for the high school.
193,000.
Yeah, and then the other one was 194, I believe. Both of those were very solid groups and very good to work with. Hunt, just we weighed out the pros and cons, and if you want to discuss it further, we could do it in close, but Hunt would be the recommendation. And I want to give Bo a lot of credit for the time he spent on this.
So why do you think the other one's so much lower?
LVC?
Yeah.
They're why? It's so out of line with the other ones, and one of the things that Bo discovered was some of the equipment that's used there is proprietary, and so sometimes what he understands about that is they will sell you the equipment pretty cheap, but then you have this proprietary equipment, and you want to, for the controls or for the repairs, or they lock you into a contract. So you're
I
kind
can
of stuck.
understand that. Yeah, we've had issues with that before, so.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess I will entertain a motion on fire alarm system.
I move to approve the Hunt proposal for the fire alarm system.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve Hunt for the fire alarm system. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is the consideration / approval of the HVAC upgrade of the junior senior high school kitchen area.
Okay. This one, a similar situation. We've been talking about this for a couple of years, I think. And some of the challenges of getting bids and determining what's the course of action. You guys might recall a little over a year ago, commissioned the engineering study from Train to do the engineering, and we did use that engineering study to get these bids. That was one of the reasons nobody wanted to bid on the project. So Train put in a bid last winter. They have become less responsive, I would say. It seems like there may be some staffing issues, and it's been less responsive, I would say. We've had a bid from Barton Gale from midwinter as well. They were prompt to get that in. We've done some work with them. We also had a really good bid more recently from Harris. I want to thank some of the folks at Kraus Anderson that we've worked with. Were very good partners in pointing us in directions of who to reach out to and kind of helping move things along when we felt kind of stuck. So if you look at the proposals, there hasn't been a ton of responses out of the one group for a while, and so not really feeling like there's the capability probably to carry it out right now from Train. Harris and Barton Gill have been more responsive. Harris was pretty aggressive with their eagerness, I think, once we got them involved and on board. So they do have the low bid at $78,450, whereas Barton Gale's was $93,533. Both of those are strong bids and both strong companies, so I would say that Harris with the little bit better rate would be the recommendation. One thing too that was recommended to me was that we should probably approve about a 10% contingency with this too. Not expecting it, but there's a possibility with maybe some issues, when they have to cut into the roof with some electrical or some of the sheet metal work that needs to be done. That was a suggestion made to me by someone from Kraus Anderson to say, hey, you might want to protect yourself. Just if you can get that approved, that might be good, because there might be a little bit of possibility of that.
So we're adding to and not replacing it, correct?
We are adding something that's not there. It would be a air conditioning unit and temperature control unit for this, specifically for the high school kitchen. because the air quality issues have been an issue there for a while.
Wouldn't an exhaust fan serve the same purpose, Chris?
It would help, but it wouldn't accomplish what it needs to remove the humidity and actually cool the temperature down. Obviously, there's a lot of things, there is an exhaust fan down there, but it's not enough to bring the temp down with all the heat being produced in there. So, and the commons itself, where the kids are, is cool, but it doesn't transfer well into the kitchen. We come back in September, the poor cooks look like they're melting in there. First of the year. So. Thoughts, questions?
I would have to think if we've got one specific room that's hot, if we exhausted that outside and brought the cooler air from the other rooms into it, that would solve the problem a lot less expensive than than trying to cool the air that's being heated.
Kitchens are hot.
And what's wrong with that thinking, Chris? I don't know.
I don't have Tom here. He could probably answer that better than me because he's been more involved.
But Kraus, this was one of their recommendations.
No, this was something we were working on before we ever did our facility study with them. Yeah, but it's been an issue down there. It is. Kitchens are hot. You're right, but this kitchen's way hotter than, like, say, the elementary kitchen. It is. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the engineer. I didn't do the engineering study, so I don't know the reason why it's inadequate. But
do you feel we've lost employees because of it, or?
I think it contributed to one.
Yeah, if it's too hot, we want to do something. But can we table this until the next time and have?
Because we're past the point of this happening this summer, so.
Yeah, I don't know. $80,000 to All right, let's do that. I don't know. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I think it would be best if Tom could come in, talk
All right.
through it.
I'd also like to hear Kraus Anderson. I guess we've done this facility study with them and spent the money with them. I'd like to hear their thoughts on how important that would be to our facilities too, as far as how we rank versus others, I guess.
We had a presentation from them.
Yeah.
Where they did rank.
They didn't necessarily rank anything, but they prioritized, high
Yeah.
priority, mid priority. Yeah. The
I'm not saying I have to hear from them, but
No.
maybe
the air conditioning in this building was put in after the fact. So the building was built in '97. The AC was put in 2014. So there are some oddities about it. We don't have an air conditioning. We don't have it in the gym. That end of the building with the weight room, locker rooms, kitchen has some oddities and inconsistencies. So.
I just think from a community standpoint, I've probably heard more about AC being needed in the gym.
It's because they don't sit in the kitchen. Yeah.
I do get that too.
Yeah, no, you're right. I hear that too, because I'd say that the gym AC is also a upper priority. Yeah. And that question was asked by me, like, okay, how does this fit in with that? And
So if you're in a hot house, the first thing you buy generally is a fan. And if the fan can't do it, then you go to air conditioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's put a giant fan in our gym too. Remember our old gym used to have a fan, didn't it?
I don't know. Do you have a ceiling fan or
a big exhaust fan on the side.
We've done it.
Are you bringing in the barn fan for volleyball practice? Is that what you're going to do, Greg?
We do. We basically do that.
All right, well, if we can table that, then we'll talk to them later on.
Sure.
Next item of business then is the consideration / approval of PK-12 Assistant Principal Athletic Director position.
Okay. So this is not something that's been a topic on a board agenda prior, but this came from, we had a discussion when we did our board retreat. We looked at school perceptions survey data, and we had a discussion about behavior supports in the district, particularly at the elementary school. And I think as part of that conversation, toward the end, the question was, okay, what, are there resources that we can direct to the elementary school? Is there more we can do with personnel? Behavior coaches, stuff like that was talked about. And I think, I recall somebody even suggesting, knowing that, we haven't hired an athletic director, somebody suggested combining the positions. And so took that idea and put together a proposal for the board to consider, whether that's something they actually, whether the board, whether they want to seriously consider that. Kind of took that question, and again, we looked at the surveys too of the parents, students, and staff identified behavior issues, student behaviors as an area of focus. So anyway, so the idea would be to create a position that would be a pre-K-12 assistant principal, who would be, an assistant principal's role often in a school is to provide that first level of student support. So it's, student attendance, student behavior, student discipline. We've identified in our district currently that we have behavior challenges at the elementary school in a grade span, a span of grades. So the idea would be having someone who would be that behavior support person where the needs are across the district, which currently would be identified at the elementary, but then also combine that with filling that athletic director position. Because another challenge over the years has been kind of the sustainability of that athletic director position. It's typically been a teacher/athletic director, and that's been a challenge over times. So taking those two ideas is where this came from. And so I did a little bit of groundwork and looked at what would be the budget impact of this, and okay, what would be the job description? What would the role of the person be? So looking at some of the budget impact, I did kind of look at some of our staffing things for next year, and we actually do have some opportunities for savings that we have in place for next year. So if this position were to be created, currently we pay our athletic director a salary, so that would be cut. That would be about $7,200, that would go into this. That would be taken away. We've discussed and determined with our one of our high school secretaries leaving, consolidating and taking Mrs. Blanchard in her district position, where she would continue doing what she does now, which is district data enrollment, open enrollment, and athletic secretary, and actually having her located in the high school office as a efficiency there, and that's been discussed. So that would be not replacing, a position, would be a savings. We also have a half-time English teacher who's retiring for real, or retiring again, and not coming back. That was a planned thing. So that's a reduction in staffing. And we've also made the choice this past year, very wise choice, to have Mrs. Karnick continue on as a support in the business office, as a mentorship to Eve as well. So that's an expense that'll be sunsetting as well. So with those things in mind, I can mathematically show that the position would be a new position would be a new expense, and I can show though that it would be an actual reduction. There's a reduction there. The question is whether it's the right thing to do or whether it's something the board wants to do. But I wanted to be able to show that we could mathematically, budgetarily find a way to do it. It's just a matter of if it's the choice we want to make. So
let's put that in closed session, then we can finish discussing that there.
Yep. Last thing, some contractual framework, and I think that would be like more of a closed session discussion as far as talking about compensation and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
All right. Then we'll go on to the next item of business, which is the approval of the 24-25 academic standards.
Okay. So this is each year by statute. school district is required to have a board agenda item where we declare that the Wisconsin state academic standards are the ones that we use specifically for math, ELA, science, history, and geography. And I have a link to those standards on there, and that's linked on our website as a district too. So
Okay.
we need to approve those.
I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 24-25 academic standards.
I'll second it.
Been properly moved and second to approve the 24-25 academic standards. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of the 24-25 food service prices, student fees, and athletic event prices.
Okay, so we were just finishing up that document. I got it in there this morning. So I guess I threw some other things in there just for your reference if you'd wanted to look at them ahead of time or after the fact. But the first document on there is the one that's up for approval. This just shows the meal pricing for breakfast and lunch for elementary, junior high, high school, adult meals, as well as reduced price meals and the cost for extra milk. And let's see. So, and there's some other notes in here that we put in. Our school food service account had a positive balance as of 6/30/2023, June 30th, 23. Therefore, we qualified for paid lunch equity exemption for price increases, which are some mandatory increases. And then, so the request for increases is laid out there. So student breakfast prices would be increased by 15 cents and lunches by 10 cents. We looked at how we compare with the CISA. There's a survey every year of what people's lunch prices are, and we found that our lunch prices across the board were really right in line with the averages, if we did the 10-cent increase. And then but we did see too that our breakfast prices were actually quite low comparatively. We were probably undercharging for that, especially for adult breakfasts, which very, very few people partake in, but it was something that we noted that was kind of out of line. And also that our adult lunch prices had kind of, they've kind of bounced around the last few years with COVID. If you guys remember, we had to do some mandatory increases. They went way up. And so then we kind of reacted and put them back down when we could. And we probably put them down a little, we didn't need to put them as low as we did probably. So they kind of bounced back up again. Milk prices, I think, is up 3 cents from 42 to 45, I believe, for extra milk. So we did take a good hard look at that. There's formulas that the DPI gives you to figure in what your food costs are and so on. And again, we looked at comparables year to year for us and comparables with other districts. So, and then also this past year, I noted this in my board notes, is that we've seen a major increase in food prices. I think everyone sees that when they go to the grocery store with their personal business, and then also that's school is feeling that as well. So we saw a big increase in prices, and we saw a reduction in the food service reimbursement rates. So we get reimbursed money through the DPI, but from the federal government. So every meal that a kid eats, we count them, and then we get reimbursed a certain rate. Well, during the COVID rates were extra high, and those dropped off last year, and so the reimbursement rate went down, the food prices went up. So we've talked for a few years about big surpluses we've had in Fund 50. That's not the case anymore, so I'll just say that. So, and that's not due to anybody doing anything wrong. That's just due to some of the circumstances. That's just the reality of it. So, and then the prices for the other items, the student fees, those haven't changed, I think, since maybe Greg and I or Eddie were in high school. And I don't think those have changed much for the registration fee, and the athletic prices are not changing either. So, and I don't know if there's other questions or comments.
Looks good to me, I guess. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 food service prices, student fees, and athletic event prices.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 24-25 prices. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is the review of the 23-24 seclusion and restraints
Okay.
report.
sorry. Again, this is an annual requirement, and that any time a student is seclusion or restraint is used on a student, we have to document it. There's a big form you fill out that's shared with the family, and there's a debriefing afterwards with the staff. So we had one restraint last year at the elementary school, 2nd grade, and so we document in there whether it's male, female, special ed, non-special ed, and so on, all those factors. We report that to the DPI. So the restraint is where, and again, this is we talk about CPI training or crisis prevention institute training or nonviolent crisis intervention training. This is trained staff, so you're trained to, put a hold the correct way, the safe way. A seclusion is where a student is put into a room for their own safety or whatever, to keep them from running away, and you close the door and don't let them out of the room. They're supervised, they're safe, but they're not allowed to leave for their own safety, or so they don't run away. So we did not have any seclusions, but we had a restraint last year. So.
All right, next item of business is the approval of the 24-25 WIAA membership renewal.
Okay. It's a little bit different now. It's an online portal. It used to be a form that I would bring, and I think I would have the board president sign that. Now it is an online portal, and but I just printed off what's on there for the board member to see. But basically, this is just approval that we're going to remain members of the WIAA. We need to do this annually, and it needs to be submitted by August 1st. So we needed to have it as a board agenda item here, and with your approval, then we will take care of submitting that.
Then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 24-25 WIAA membership.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded twice to approve the WIAA membership review. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the review of the 2024 summer school.
Okay, and I will turn it over to the principals here. I think Mrs. Anderson is maybe going to take the lead on this one, since that's the biggest part of the program over there.
Yeah, so Patty Least did another amazing job at organizing everything. She said, and I will get this on record, she will do it again next year. So, with the possibility of coaching somebody into the position, but she said she would do it. So it's on record. So a good attendance. We had lots of fun classes, a lot of cooking classes this year, a lot of crafting, DIY classes. Fishing got rained out probably more than they actually went fishing.
It's good fishing in the rain.
Number of our outdoor classes, our track and field, which has 50 kids in it with 3 teachers and a couple paras. They had to do some things in the gym and such, but overall, just a wonderful experience. Lots of excitement for the month of June, and just so appreciative. We did not need to put any ads out to find staff. It was fully staffed, and we had some really great teachers and support.
You did the week-long again, right? Where they'll rotate.
Yeah,
each
so they
day.
have the 3 weeks, and so they're in their same class for 3 hours 1 week, and then they move to a different class that second week, and then final class. We did our field trip to the Chaos Water Park, Action City in Eau Claire. So seeing 5-6 buses head in is always exciting, and kids are running around and having a blast. I played some laser tag and strategically put myself on the team I needed to be on. So they had fun lighting up their principal as well. So it was a good overall summer. Something really that we can be proud of, because we have some good attendance. And swimming lessons started today. It's not really in connection to summer school at all, but so we have some opportunities for our kids in the summer, which is nice.
It seems a little more spread out this year, and I think that's great.
What do you mean spread out?
Sometimes swimming lessons would happen right after, like
Gotcha.
they're done with summer school, and then they gotta hit the bus and head out.
Right after school, and I think it's having it spread out a little bit, gives kids to do something to do all summer long, and that's great.
Sounds good. Well, thank you. The next item of business is the review of the board retreat for professional development held on June 19th.
And we discussed this a little bit already in the conversation we had, but yeah, so we did a couple of things. We had representative come in from School Perceptions to review the survey data with the board and do a deep dive into that for an hour. And then we, after that, had a deep dive into information and related to, what kind of student behavior supports do we have in our district, with a sharper focus on the elementary school and a good discussion there. So, I don't know, any insights to add? Or?
Well, I wasn't there. I don't know how long that meeting went, but I'm about 2 hours into the recording of it. And I think
close to 4.
I think I'm a third done. But boy, sure, what a fun conversation you guys had. Wish I could have been a part of it. But. All right, well then the next item of business then is the reminder of district annual meeting, date August 26th.
Yeah, so again, no action, just, the board acted on that or just kind of confirmed that last time around, but again, just nice to get it on the agenda, to keep reminding people of when it is. So.
And then the next item of business would be the board policy updates and approval of the second reading of 6325, 6610, rescinding old 6610, I guess, 6611, 6630, 7440, 7540, 8310, and 8330. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the second readings mentioned.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second to approve those board policies. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, the next item of business is the first reading of the board policies.
Well, I
Chris,
got
I'll
the-
let you-
Sorry, I got the technical corrections in there too.
Yep.
And you know what? That's my mistake. I have board policy approval of technical corrections, and because of that, we probably should approve them, but usually we don't do technically. Usually we don't have to do an approval of the technical corrections. That's my error for typing it in that way. So, but we probably should do it since I have it listed that way. I apologize.
All right.
Well, then I move to approve the technical corrections.
Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve the technical corrections. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, now we're down to number 8, the first readings of the next group of, and I'll hand that off to you, Chris.
Okay, and there's just one policy, so it's the Title IX policy. So if you recall, what was it, fall of 22, when we started really diving into updating a lot of Neola policies. So this was one of the first ones we did that then, and so here we are only 2 years later. So Title IX is a federal regulation that, as the policy, is 2264, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities. And so what's gone on at the federal level in the Department of Education is they've gone 2 years of revisions and rulemaking process, and there's an extensive, it took them 22 months to do the revisions and then have the reviews and the hearings to go through this. And so they were very recently approved. So they took 2 months to do that, and then they said, you've got 2 months to implement it all. So thank you very much for that. So there's been a real mad scramble, and this is a discussion I was part of today on Zoom with some superintendents with the CSL 11 steering committee, and I was really thankful that we used Neola, because Neola was on it, and they, within a couple of weeks, they came out with their updated policy, spit it out to us, and then got support from our Neola rep, Ed Cerny, and really helped guide through, so what happens again, the process with the Neola policies is they give you their proposed policy. Within it, sometimes there are different choices you can make at certain points along the way, and it's ultimately the board's choice. And many times Neola will say, we don't have a recommendation, you choose whatever makes sense for your district. There are other times where they will say, our attorneys tend to recommend this aspect to keep things better for your district, or to allow the policy to be applied better. So again, I've been really appreciative of, we're on this super fast timeline to update these, and Neola has been very supportive with that. So why are they being updated? So some of the highlights I got that's different from 2020. So I'm just going to read these off. These are from an email summary. So all forms of sex discrimination are covered, including pregnancy, by the policy, not just sex-based harassment. Complaints can be made orally. In the past, they needed to be a written complaint. One Title IX coordinator must be named, while a second deputy should be a person of another gender. It used to be that you had to have 2 coordinators. Now you can have just one. We're going to keep 2, but then we name one as kind of the main one. The Title IX coordinator can now also serve as the investigator and the decision maker. In the past, you had to have the coordinator, the investigator, the decision maker, and then the appeal decision maker, and they all had to be different people. And in a district our size, kind of run out of people after a while who are able to do that. So, an appeal decision maker is also needed. Typically, can be the superintendent usually, and then the Title IX coordinator can be identified by title instead of by name. So it changed. Every time we have a change, and we don't have to go update the policy. We can just say it's the high school principal, it's the elementary counselor. So, and then also it clarifies that the outreach extends further. So, for example, kind of like the athletic code. Some of it can extend outside of the school day. So if you have a situation where there is sexual harassment outside of the building, but it carries forth an impact inside of the building, it can cause us to take action or have to take action to provide protective measures. So there's some of that, and then there's also training that needs to be done for all staff now. It used to be specific people had to be trained, and now it's all staff. So the law hasn't, and this is a rule, but it carries the force of law. It has not come without controversy. There are 3 or 4 lawsuits that have been begun in different circuit courts around different parts of the country. However, none of them affect Wisconsin. So we're not in a circuit that has a lawsuit that has any sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? My words are escaping me. But basically,
Injunction.
Thank you for preventing the law from being put in place. So the recommendation, strong recommendation from Neola and mine would be to adopt the policy. Because it does hold the force of law. If we didn't adopt the policy, then our policy would just be out of compliance with the law. The law would still be the law, and we'd have to follow it, but our policy would be out of compliance with it. It's a lengthy, complicated policy. It's,
24 pages long.
Yeah, I did the print off of it, and it's, this is how thick it is, one policy. Granted, some of this will go away because it's got editing notes and all that in it, but it was a real joy to review it last week, and it was tongue in cheek. I'm being sarcastic. Sorry for to sit and review all this and discern it and understand it. But what I found in looking at our old one and then this one and walking through it with our helper from Neola was that a lot of the choices to be made are the same choices to be made in the old policy, but there are some new ones. And if I can go over some of the highlights. Although, how do you break down 20-some pages into highlights? But I'll just say one of them is there's an option in there for designating what's called a confidential employee. A lot of this applies more to post-secondary, like higher ed. So if you have someone who's a social worker or a counselor, and that's considered a confidential employee, where they, because of their profession and what they do, they wouldn't be compelled to, like, if we had to do an investigation, we call them in and say, hey, can you tell me what this happened here, what you know about this, and they would not necessarily be compelled to say anything because of their profession. The recommendation was not to designate confidential employees at the secondary level and elementary level. So that's one big one.
So did we have any gender identity language in the previous one, Chris?
Put me on the spot here. I don't.
Just because I just came on to page 5 and it says now that sex-based harassment does include gender identity.
I believe that was in the last one. I believe it was, but I will check on that for sure. Basically, that harassing someone on the basis of their gender would include sex stereotypes or saying that, yeah, if someone is...
So like does it different somebody to play, some boy to play on the volleyball team even though they identify as a girl now?
This would not allow that, no. I think it refers more to students harassing or bullying a student for their gender identity. That's one of the like I said, this law has now come without controversy, and that's one of the concerns about it is the gender identification stuff that's in it. I don't think it's, again, I'd have to look at the wording of the last one. One of the misconceptions that I've heard, because I looked at this, was that it would allow, that this rule specifically says that would allow transgender students to participate in sports that are not of their gender of birth, and that is not stated in here. However, I believe I read or heard with the process here that there's some rule-making policy about that going on that may come out, but that's not part of this. Is what I.
Because this would say there has to be equal sports for male and female. Like you can't have like all male sports and only like 10 male sports and only 2 female sports. Like that's what it's saying, not the individuals in which they can play.
Yeah. The thing too that I would remind everybody when, as far as there's been concerns across the country about transgender students in sports. The WIA regulations in Wisconsin dictate that, and the WIA regulations are pretty clear. So,
on page 13, it has 30 days for investigation after 10 days of evaluation to determine if you investigate.
mm-hmm.
Is that standard for 30 days? It seems 40 days seems pretty long if there's something serious going on.
Mm-hmm. What page again?
13.
13. Get to that one. That is that is standard. The 30 days is what it was in the past, I believe, if I recall. The evaluation part, Neola's recommendation is 10 days. To me, that seems a while to evaluate.
So what you're saying is
If
the
they complain.
longest is 40 days.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to take that long, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because I had that question too when I was talking to our rep, because the recommendation is 10, and I said, well, do we want to go with less than that? And Neola's recommendation is they're always going to be conservative to say, well, in order to, any unforeseen circumstance where you would want to give yourself more time. That is business days. That's defined early in the policy. It's work days, business days, school days. Yeah. And and I said, why so long? And an example was, well, you may need to interview somebody, and they're out sick for 4 days. And if you can't talk to them, you may want that opportunity. So again, it's not saying you need to take 10 days or you should take 10 days, but if you have some unforeseen circumstance. And I don't think best practice would ever be to take that long, certainly. So
Yeah, I just think the investigation is long.
It's covering you.
the 30 days too is long. That's how the old one was. But it's surprising how long that process takes when you go through the procedures of what everybody, you disclose to the other side and what they have opportunities to review evidence and so on. So that does get dragged out, unfortunately. I had that same question.
Yeah, because when
So-
you're giving them 5 days to respond and look at evidence, like that's ticking off your 30-day time period. And if you have too many of them, that could eat up your 30 days really fast.
I'm trying to think of other highlights. We have our junior senior high principal is the coordinator, as is our elementary counselor. So that remains the same as it was before. So congratulations, Mr. Milburn, for that.
You're responsible for memorizing this 24-page document.
We'd like a presentation.
Yeah, what am I doing
In
talking
August.
about?
Here you go.
No, it's a very
It's
challenging
difficult,
spot,
yeah.
and it spells it out. And honestly, if we have a very in-depth, difficult situation, we're going to be contacting our attorney for guidance. I mean, that's what we're going to do. You can't get this wrong, so we can't afford to get this wrong. So we're going to be contacting our attorney for help, and in many cases, also using a third-party investigator makes sense, especially in a small district like ours when there are unnumbered connections and unknown connections. It often makes sense to have a third-party investigator. I'm trying to think of other big highlights. There's, the grievance procedure at the end. If someone disagrees with the decision, there were some choices to make there, and honestly now it's kind of a jumble to me what the differences were from the last one, but it was very lengthy to go through, but it wasn't, in my view, it wasn't like controversial which choices to make. It kind of made sense. So first reading, obviously everyone's got an opportunity to take a little bit deeper look at it. It's overwhelming, it's a lot of stuff. It's
All right,
overwhelming.
we'll do that on our own time then, I guess. All right, then the next item of business is our superintendent notes. Chris Peterson.
Okay, I had some notes here somewhere to help me out and remind me in my pile of stuff. So just a few activities in the summer here, less emphasis on student activities, but there's still a few. But one thing I want to highlight is our admin team and our counselors attended the Behavioral Threat Assessment Management Training on June 12th. This was put on by the Department of Justice School Safety Division, and they've been really doing an excellent job over the last few years. I've noticed a difference in the efforts towards supporting schools, but basically learned a methodology for threat analysis and analyzing behavior in a way that is preventative and proactive and curative, and it's not a one-time event that happens, but you're managing. You have a team, and you manage and you review how things are going with students who've raised concerns through their actions or their words, and you monitor that. So there's a methodology. Also June here, tons of year-end budget work, spending down budgets and filling out orders and so on. It's been very busy in the business office. Mr. Bo Osmanrud, will come back in a month or two and talk to us about some of the cybersecurity efforts we've been doing, like with the cybersecurity audit. That's been a big theme in the education industry for the last few months, and probably you've heard it in the media, but schools are a target. They're seen as sort of a weak link, and so heard from a neighboring superintendent this spring who had it happen, and boy, you don't want to be there. Not fun. So we've been doing some efforts there. Our financial audit happens here in a couple weeks, July 22nd through 25th. We've been doing work on the preliminary 24-25 district budget. We've been starting to plan for August in-service and summer professional development stuff already, of course. Swimming lessons happening this week. We've had ETS students in the building. So, all summer long, the buildings are still kind of buzzing with kids. So, the admin team will go to the legal summit at CISA 11 on August 1st. And just a reminder, our next meeting is until August 12th. So just the way the calendar falls, it's a little bit of a longer gap in between meetings again. And just to reaffirm to the timeline of that August 12th meeting to the August 26th annual meeting, we've got time in there that I can get the publications of the preliminary budget done after it's approved on the 12th. So we're fine. We don't need to adjust any meetings this year. So that's all I got.
Nice. Thanks, Chris. Next item of business is our contemplated closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C and 19.85 paragraph 1E. The board will discuss staffing and staff compensation. The board will review competitive bids and vendor contracts. Thanks, you guys, for coming in.
Thank you.
I'll pull the board.
Yes.
Cory, myself, yes. Christie?
Yep.
Matthew?
Yes.
All right, we're all here. And we will be in closed session. We are in closed session. All right, we're back to open session. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the hiring of a PK through 12 assistant principal / athletic director position.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to hire this position. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Future agenda items. Anybody have anything you want to put on a future agenda?
We'll have just handbook, handbooks to approve at the August meeting and preliminary budget to approve at the August meeting. Those will be the big items.
Okay. All right, then, without any
Are
other...
we good for the September date? Did anybody disapprove of that?
Oh, yeah, the board retreat with the CC11 person to come. Yeah, it's September 23rd, Monday
Yep.
the 23rd. Yeah, and we talked about parent-teacher conferences going on that night, and that should be fine. And I think we'll keep it we'll try to keep it short. Just do, that can be it. That'll be the presentation. We've had some long meetings, so I respect that, and we'll try to just keep it that way.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
It's been properly moved twice and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.